Okay, guys, I just really tonight want to share a bit of my story with you, and I hope that's okay. We're going to have a DVD clip in about 3 minutes or so hopefully that'll kind of keep your attention. But I want to start actually by reading out a wee bit from a short story, if that's okay. It's about a girl called Leah. The mirror seemed to mock her as she moved her lips to form a smile. Get over yourself, she thought, but she couldn't draw her eyes away from the girl staring back at her, wishing that those weren't her eyes, that it wasn't her hair, that it wasn't her face, that it just wasn't her. She sighed again, feeling the tears coming on and trying to push her lips upwards, but it was a smile that couldn't quite reach her eyes. It was Friday night before youth club. Leah was feeling pretty upbeat. Upbeat that was until she approached the mirror. It was like the greeting of two strangers. No warmth, no recognition. She let her eyes sweep over the face, staring, judging, analysing. There was no hiding place from her tears. Her frozen smile could salvage nothing. She sank to the ground, and then came the tears. I actually wrote that story when I was around 16. That's just a small part of it, and basically Leah was me. At that stage, I was someone who hated looking in the mirror. I actually hated people's eyes being on me. I hated people coming up close to me. I hated how I looked, and hated who I was. I was a Christian teenager I mentioned earlier. Has kind of asked Jesus into my life when I was quite small. Maybe wasn't doing a great job of following him at that stage, but believed in God and believed that he was in my life. And there I was, basically doing battle with myself. And yet to everybody else watching or looking on, I probably seemed like quite a together kind of girl, maybe somebody who had it sorted in some ways, but they didn't hear me when I cried. Some nights going to sleep, or they didn't see that I wanted to hide from people. They didn't know that actually I was hurting quite a lot, and they had no clue that I wanted to run away from pretty much every single conversation because I actually was embarrassed that people would be looking on my ugliness. That was the story of my life for a number of years, and then I began to realise that this was not a great way to live. And I realised that I couldn't keep taking my questions to a mirror, but I had to take them to someone, and that someone I realised was this God who I kind of claimed to believe in. And so that's what I did. I took that question to God, and I took my hang-ups to him, and that is actually when God started to answer. If the guys at the back are ready, we're actually going to watch a quick DVD clip. It's from the movie Shawshank Redemption, which I'm not sure some of you might have heard of or seen, but it's the basic story is a guy, Andy, who gets locked up in prison for a double murder he didn't commit. And this scene is him basically finding his escape from prison, so we're just going to watch that for a minute.
zombie crawl to freedom through 500 yards of smelling foulness I can't even imagine. Or maybe I just don't want to. 500 yards. That's the length of 5 football fields. Just shy of half a mile.
Just what was happening there. Andy had been in jail for years and years and years, and in his cell he'd smuggled I think it was like a chisel into the cell. He'd been chipping away at the wall, but he covered it with the posters so none of the prison guards noticed, and every day he was chipping away another bit of rock until it formed a tunnel and he could escape. But it was a pretty messy way out, but I think it's a cool image at the end, him just standing finally free with his hands up into the air. God says in the book of Jeremiah in the Bible, if you look for me really hard, you will find me when you seek me. I will be found by you, says God. I will end your captivity and restore your fortunes. So just to sort of carry on a wee bit with my life story, a bit like Andy in the movie, I realised that I was actually in a bit of a prison cell, and that I wasn't really living a kind of free, kind of fun life. And I realised I had to take action to get out of the prison cell. So my way of sort of chipping away at the walls was to try and find God, try and get to know this God that I said I believed in. So I realised that I had to try and find him in the Bible, which was a book that I maybe kind of read, but I hadn't really looked very hard for God in it. So that's what I began to do. And what I realised is that the more that I sort of tried to find God, just like that Bible verse, the more I looked for him, the more actually I found him. And the more I realised that actually God does speak today. And it's something I probably thought was quite wacky, that God up in heaven can speak to human beings, but I began to realise that there was stuff that he wanted to say about my life and messages that he had for me. So the more I began to find him and hear from him, then the more I began to change and see how God saw me and begin to see me, I guess, through God's eyes. And he told me that I was beautiful and answered my doubts. He told me to relax and be myself. And I guess in thinking about coming here tonight, I was thinking, we probably each of us have stuff in our lives, if we're honest. I don't think it's just a girl thing. We all have stuff in our lives that we're going, I'm not that good at something, or he is way better than me, or she is way prettier than me, or I just suck. And we all have hang-ups and stuff that we kind of don't want other people to see. We just want them to see that we're really cool and we live pretty cool lives. But if each of us bring those hang-ups to God, as I kind of learned in my journey, and I'm still trying to learn, if we take those questions to God, then actually they're questions he really wants to answer, and he will pop up with really surprising, sometimes in random ways, to respond to the doubts you have.